the truth about Sargodha air battle. Very recently, the National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval Kirti Chakra had addressed the convocation ceremony in IIT Madras. Right? He had blasted the Western media for its fairy tales and disinformation about Operation Sindoor, especially the air warfare component of it. He had challenged the Western media, the world, anyone to show one satellite imagery, one satellite photograph, one normal photograph of any damage to any Indian air base. That says it all. It was an open challenge. We haven't seen anybody accept that challenge, right? But the simple fact is, a lot of disinformation is being spread about what happened in Operation Sindoor. Partly we are to blame because of very secretive policy initially. Initially, you have to be secretive before an operation is launched. But it is after the operation that I think, unless we win the battle of the narratives, you may win the war on the ground, you may win the war in the air. But if you lose the battle of narratives by being a little slower on the curve than the enemy, then it goes against you. And that is precisely the problem. Pakistan was able to impose its narrative for the first few days. Then the reality check came and caught up, the truth caught up with Pakistan, as a number of foreign experts are now saying. Whether Tom Cooper of Austria, the Colonel John of the West Point, whether Ladwig of the Royal United Services Institution, and so many other Western unbiased scholars have said India has won a clear-cut military victory. It was able to hit all the targets that it had selected in Pakistan with amazing levels of precision, unprecedented. You see, and I'd like to highlight some of the achievements because unfortunately we've been very modest in victory. We want to, almost play down the great success achieved by you, by your Air Force, by your armed forces, by your air defense gunners, by your scientists, which have shaken up the world. The world is shaken. That is why you see all these, derogatory references in the Western media to what happened in Operation Sindoor. They are motivated. The simple fact is that America has to sell F-35. The Indian Rafale. The Rafale costs almost as much as the F-35, and yet it is winning contracts all over Asia, all over Africa, because it is a combat-proven aircraft. So the Western media is very keen to decry this aircraft, to run it down, to run down its combat performance by saying that 3 Rafales were lost on day 1. Nonsense. Show us the evidence. Show us the evidence. You can make all the claims that you want. There's a hot air. Where is the actual evidence? You see? So there is, a need to go a little deep. The Chinese media, the state media, the television, the print, the electronic, the social media are gaga over the Pakistani narrative of day 1. Right? Oh, there was a great air battle. 70 Indian aircraft versus 40 Pakistani aircraft, of which the J-10C was the real champion. There was the Reichshofen style air battle reminiscent of World War I. The Reichshofen circus used to come with 100 aircraft, and there would be so many British and Canadian and French aircraft, and they would duel in the skies, and Reichshofen and air aces like Bishop and so many others, they became world famous. That was World War I. So Pakistan's Air Vice Marshal Aurangzeb, Deputy Chief of Staff of the Pakistan Air Force, gave a very grandiose PowerPoint presentation, very slick, very sexy, the right American NATO jargon, multi-domain operations, and that center of gravity, etc. You could see the Pakistani female correspondents, starry-eyed, gaga, when he was mouthing all these NATO and American jargon, left them very impressed. It did not impress the military professionals. You claim that you shot down. The Pakistani claim is that our J-10C Chinese aircraft, actually they are copies of X-16 from which the Israelis had made the Lavi, and they copied that design, bought one aircraft, reverse engineered and made the J-10, right? So the J-10, they are claiming, Pakistan claims, that for 10 days they were flying combat air patrols, waiting for the Indian aircraft to come. And they were flying very low, close to the ground, so that with their radar switched off, their communication switched off, that the Pakistani AVAC, which was flying near the Afghan border, picked up the Indian aircraft as they rose, as they were coming towards Pakistan, alerted these J-10s, and then apparently, they rose and they fired their PL-15E missiles with 145 kilometer range. There were some suggestions or some inputs that Pakistan had secretly been given the PL-15 original. PL-15E has a range of 145 kilometers. The original has a range of 200 to 300 kilometers. And maybe that is what could have surprised some Indian aircraft. But the simple bloody fact is, where is the debris? The debris were in India. So we don't have it. Of course you don't have it. Even in India, they're not there. And then you are talking of where are the radar track photographs. When you judge, in air exercises, how do the DASI people, the Directorate of Air Staff Inspection, those who are trained to, judge the outcome of mock air battles, etc. How do they do it? They do it on radar tracks. Here is your aircraft. This is where you picked up that enemy aircraft. Now you fired your missile, and that enemy aircraft blip has gone off the radar. So that means you scored, you killed. You have a kill. That is the reality. Not one radar track has been shown. Not one. Show us the evidence if you have. No debris, no radar tracks. Okay? Some vague RT conversation here and there. We've also got RT conversation of Pakistani aircraft attacking Avantipur. Once again, the JF-17s coming with cruise missiles and the J-10s firing flying shotgun, or what is called combat air patrol, to protect them from Indian fighters. And the S-400s were fired, and there was Mayday, 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 and eject, and silence. So we also know we've shot down your aircraft. So the simple fact is they had no concrete evidence to show. Now, a number of Western scholars, American scholars, unbiased, they have sort of put all the evidence together, what Pakistan has presented, what India has presented, and has come to the conclusion that 3 Indian aircraft were lost on May 7. 1 Rafale, 1 Su-30, 1 MiG-29 / Mirage. One set of people say MiG-29, one set of people say Mirage. So 3 Indian aircraft lost. 3 aircraft. How many did Pakistani lose? Pakistan lost 8 F-16 fighters. 4 on the ground, 4 in the air. Pakistan lost at least 2 JF-17s and 1 Mirage 5/Mirage 3. Right? So this itself is about 12 Pakistani fighters down. They lost 2 AVAC aircraft. They lost 1 IL-78 air-to-air refueler. They lost 1 C-130. So they lost about 15 to 16 aircraft to our 3. That's a damn good going rate. In war, aircraft have to be lost. What matters is, have you hit your targets or not? 9 Pakistani terror bases blown to smithereens. That was on the 7th, the day that they were claiming this air battle. What was the Pakistan Air Force task? To defend those air bases. Was it able to defend a single zilch? It claimed to have inflicted major losses, which are also down to just from 6 down to 3. Take it down to 3. And that is when India had to attack the terror targets at variance with standard doctrine. It was not allowed to carry out SEAD first. It just used decoys, etc., to mask its attacks. And all the 70 aircraft that you are talking of, we don't know how many were decoys. And why did 70 have to be launched to tackle just 7 targets in the northern quadrant of Pakistan? That is Kashmir, J&K and Punjab. We didn't come towards the south. So, the simple fact is that Pakistan is lying through its teeth. Now, the Indian audience must understand that on the 8th, India now, in retaliation for the Pakistani drone attacks, 400 drones on the first day, 400 drones on the second day, and another about 200 to 300 drones on the third day, right? Almost 1,000 drones, 1,200 drones were launched by Pakistan. 90% were shot down. The wing looms couldn't take off. They were destroyed on the ground, right? And now you are talking of the other aircraft, China's aircraft, UAVs, they had lost total faith in, right? They still use some of them. Bulk they used were Turkish Bayraktars shot down like flies. And the Turkish, there is a kamikaze drone that they have. I'll just tell you the name is skipping mine. Those were shot down like flies, and the children in Punjab were playing with those carcasses of those drones, right? Yize or some kind of stupid name that the Turkish had. The Turkish drones also proved to be a disaster. They were talking so much, boasting so much about them, in the war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. What air defenses did Armenia have, man? So you can, fly your drones around in such a, weak AD environment. The Turkish drones have been a disaster in Ukraine, and they were a disaster in the Operation Sindoor. And they also lost some of their people who were sitting in the drone command post at Murid when it was blasted by the Indian Air Force. But the third day is the most important, the final day, 10th of May, right? That is the day, starting early morning at about, 11:30, close to 12 midnight, the Indian Air Force had started its attack. Out of 12 major air bases, India had hit 11. Please note, out of 12 major Pakistani air bases, starting from J&K's Kardu in the north down to Karachi in the south, India hit 11 air bases. Some count it goes up to 13 air bases. Right? They were hit by drones, but they were hit primarily by the Indian Air Force with standoff cruise missiles, BrahMos from the Su-30 and Spicejet from the Rafales. Not one aircraft of India you were able to down on that day when your air bases were hit. What happened to that famous Pakistani Air Force on the 8th of May, on the 9th of May, on the 10th of May? Why did it not rise to contest any of our drones, any of our aircraft? No, what happened? It's a very important question. You are claiming such a fantastic victory on day 1. Then why do you fizzle out on day 2, 3 and 4? You vanish from the skies as India hits you. Every single bloody air base from, Skardu in Kashmir down to Karachi on the sea. Every single air base hit. And not hit just by our saying. When DGMO from the Army and the Director General Ops of the Navy, right? They showed before and after satellite imagery, not just of the terror camps of Bawalpur, of Muridke, of the Hizbul Mujahideen headquarters in Sialkot. We showed the before and after imagery, how Markaz-e Subhanallah in Jaish-e Mohammed headquarters in Bawalpur 110 kilometers inside Pakistan, reduced to rubble. Murid K, reduced to rubble, headquarter of LET. Hizbul Mujahideen, headquarter in Sialkot, reduced to rubble. Muzaffarabad, reduced to ash. Right? That could Pakistan Air Force save any of these targets? I mean, you rise up to fight not just for the sake of a gladiatorial combat. You rise up to defend your cities, your targets. Your cities in Punjab were hit. What could you do about it? The damage was there for every single Pakistani citizen, TV camera to see. Right? Destroyed holes in the domes. Bunker buster bombs had smashed these, reduced them to rubble. And there is photographic evidence, not just satellite photograph, ground photograph. Pakistani televised images show the damage done to these headquarters, which they tried to pass off as masjids, if you please. Terror universities destroyed. But then the final denouement comes on the 10th. We hit, like I said, all 11 air bases. Some count it is 13, right? What is important is the command and control base at Noor Khan between Rawalpindi and Islamabad. It was the headquarters. It was the headquarters of the Pakistan Air Force. All C4I functions were carried out from this deeply buried underground bunker command post. Right? It had been built by the General Electric Company of the United States at a cost of $500 million. Right? $500 million. And it had 5 to 6 feet of reinforced cement concrete on the top and on the sides. Right? Even a nuclear hit could not have hit it. It had a Faraday cage. It was electromagnetic pulse protected. That even if a nuclear bomb goes off, it would not knock out the electronic equipment inside. The radars, the computers and servers which were inside these command and control posts. Command headquarters of the Pakistan Air Force, command headquarters of the Nuclear Command Authority of Pakistan was also located here. It had satellite communication links with the American satellites on top and with the other air bases on the ground. This is where all the radars input went, all the AVAC inputs went, and they controlled the air battle minute by minute from here. What did our NAVIC radars, our NAVIC satellites, constellation of satellites, okay, they had picked up a vent for air conditioning 45 centimeter by 45 centimeter square with our satellites. These satellites then guided our cruise missile, BrahMos cruise supersonic cruise missile fired by the Su-30 from one side of the border. 400 kilometers it went, and into that 45 by 45 centimeter went. Ladies and gentlemen, the Americans are stupefied. They have not been able to achieve such precision. You are seeing the Russian strikes in Ukraine. They've been number of times hitting targets in the civilian areas, missing their targets. That happens. Their accuracy is lower. Seems to be around, those GPS guided ones are around 8 to 9 meters. India has hit a target 45 centimeters. It is to those who are technically savvy, it is a great stellar achievement. It went in through that. It carries a lot of fuel. The fuel explodes first. It becomes like a surface fuel air explosion, and then it goes inside, and the HE warhead, almost 400 kilograms in weight, that blows up. Can you imagine what happened to that command post, to the Pakistani air control officers and the men who were manning that, to the computer servers and controls? Everything in the Pakistani Air Force controlled from this one command post built by the Americans. in contact with the American satellite system, blown to smithereens. Next day, what does Pakistan do? To hide its terrible loss from the world, it does not take out even the dead bodies or the remains of the dead body. Right? It does not try to salvage any equipment because it knows the equipment has been vaporized, not just blasted, vaporized. So what does Pakistan do? It gets a dozer and dozes that underground command post flat as if there was nothing around here. No decent burial, no handing over to the families of Pakistani dead body. Just bury them with that damn bunker. Make it a mausoleum. This is at Noor Khan. Their headquarters of the PAF and the Nuclear Command Authority. They were all here. $500 million worth bunker vaporized. Command and control gone. The Pakistani Air Force ceded control of the entire western area. Went down and flew to Quetta and other places. They lost control of their own airspace. We hit Murid, where they had the headquarters of the drone command post. Turkish operators were helping them handle these drones through via satellite communications. Drones flying over India, drones flying over Pakistan. Our Rafale aircraft with the Scalp cruise missile hit this, went in, dived onto the target, made a 3-meter hole in the bunker roof, went in, exploded, finito, finish. All the drone operators, controllers, computers, servers blasted to bit. Satellite communications gone. Communications with drones gone. Pakistani drones began to fall out of the skies, rudderless, no command, no control, all gone. Please understand the scale of the victory that we have achieved. Just because we have been overtly modest, I don't know for what reason. We are not tom-tomming it. We should. We need to. The rest of the world is now scared of Indian technological capabilities. You can hit within centimeters of your target, man. 45 by 45 centimeter target at 400 kilometers, gone. We next also hit the Sargodha Air Base. This is the main pride of the Pakistani Air Force. Both 65 war, 71 war, we had sent 11 Mystiers to bomb this. We had won one MBC and one Veer Chakra in that air battle there. 71 again we had bombed it. This time Admiral Arup Prakash was part of that bomber and he earned his BRC there, fighter bombers, to bomb with hunters this Sargodha. This time it was once again a major, biggest air base of the PAF, had F-16s, had JF-17s, had Mirages and 3 and 5, modified for toss bombing of nuclear bombs. So we knew nuclear bombs could take off from here. They had 2 runways like a cross, like an X. What did we hit? The center, where the 2 runways meet. 80 feet hole, 20 feet deep, cratered the runway, made this base non-operational. Nothing could have taken off. It would have taken them more than a week to fill up that damned crater in the center, packed in the center of the 2, cross X-shaped, the runways for takeoff. We next hit Bolari. Bolari was where their airborne early warning and control aircraft were located. Saab 2000, Swedish AEW&C, airborne early warning and control aircraft. Our satellites picked up that a Saab aircraft was coming to land there. We saw it taxiing and entering the hangar. Huge hangar, one of the biggest hangars, 50 meters by 60 meters or something. Huge hangar. We saw it entering. Immediately our Su-30s which were flying were alerted and they fired off their BrahMos cruise missiles onto the Bolari hangar. There were 4 F-16s in that hangar and one airborne early warning aircraft had just come in. And they were downloading the data from there. 4 officers, including a squadron leader and number of other technicians, they were working on the aircraft. They were doing maintenance and they were trying to get it back up in the air because AVAC is a very, very precious and key asset. That is the time that damned BrahMos missile hit. Those 4 officers and all the people were burnt inside that aircraft. It was destroyed, reduced to little bits, and the 4 F-16 aircraft were also destroyed in that hangar. Right? Now we also hit the air runways, created the runways in Rahim Yar Khan and in Rafiki. We also hit some of the drones in Rafiki. We hit Karachi. Knocked out their radars there, which were going to look towards the sea and see the threat from our aircraft carriers, etc. We knocked out their radars there. The Pakistani Air Force was kaput. It could fly one bloody aircraft to contest the Indian fighters. Not one. For fear of our S-400s. One SAB 2000 airborne early warning and control aircraft had been shot down by our S-400 missiles. They were terrified. Even in their own airspace, they were trying to stay as far away as possible. They had vacated the entire western theatre of their airspace. There, India had won clear dominance over their airspace, and some of our fighter aircraft had flown over GHQ Karachi by 10th morning. And one of our drones had hit the GHQ, the ISI building where the J&K division is housed, the one that had planned, Pahalgam, blasted by our drone. Our drones had gone and hit as far as Peshawar, right? And that is all it was. We were enabled by the Navik constellation of 12 satellites, low Earth orbit, polar orbit, geosynchronous orbit, which cover 3,000 kilometers all around Indian frontiers, land and sea. And they give us an accuracy, GPS accuracy of less than 1 meter. Not the GLONASS, not the Chinese Bidiao, nor the American GPS gives that. We got greater accuracy than possibly even the Americans. Though they have their classified GPS, which is not available to the rest of the world. Their main GPS has a accuracy of 8 to 9 meters. It's okay for civilian traffic, not okay for the military, and they spoof it in times of war. They couldn't do it because we had our own satellites, we had our own GPS, and it was so accurate. Our air defense proved remarkable. 90% Pakistani drones were shot down. 100% Pakistani ballistic missiles fired, Shaheens, Fatehs were shot down by our S-400s, by our Baraks. Invincible Iron Dome of India matches what the Israelis have been able to achieve over a much smaller target. Just 28,000 square kilometers in Israel. See the size of India, millions of square kilometers, and see our rock solid defense. Not one attack on any Indian airbase. Like the NSA has said, I challenge you to show me one single satellite imagery evidence of any damage to any airbase. Zilch. Look at Pakistan. 9 terror targets, kaput, gone, finito. 11 Pakistani air bases hit as hard as they could be, shaken to the core, ceased to fly, ceded command of the airspace to the Indian Air Force. What else can you call victory? And how can somebody be so shameless as to deny this? They buried the bunker in Noor Khan with the dead bodies. They buried the drone command and control post in Murid to cover all evidence with the dead bodies inside, just to hide the truth from the world. But the truth has a habit of coming out. At least we in India should celebrate our air warriors, should celebrate our armed forces, and should celebrate the scientists of the DRDO which made this possible. India has fought the first BVR war of the 21st century and emerged a hands down winner. Forget the propaganda. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.